what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Debategate here at the High Stakes Sports Debates Network, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Turkey Day. 3 F's, food, family, and football, and that's what we're talking about today. And I'm joined by the general manager at WBNY Buffalo. Nicholas Lippa joins the show today. Happy Thanksgiving, Nick.
Happy Thanksgiving, Tom.
And it's going to be a great day. We're talking about the NFL matchups for Thanksgiving football. So we're going to pick the games and talk a little bit about some of the matchups. So we're going to jump right in. Eagles at the Detroit Lions on their annual Thanksgiving home game. Who do you like in this matchup, Nick?
Well, in all honesty, I like the Lions. The Lions have played improved defense over the past couple of games, where the Eagles have done the opposite. It seems like the wheels have fallen off in Philadelphia. They've had trouble getting things going. I mean, you don't know who's going to be at quarterback. It's either going to be the butt fumbler himself, Mark Sanchez, or it's going to be Sam Bradford, who's banged up in multiple areas. The key in this game for me, in this Lions-Eagles game, is really that Lions defense. Right. They did a commendable job against the Raiders last week, and then the week before that against the Packers.
Right.
Ziggy Ansah's getting it done. The Lions, I think, are going to make it very hard on Philadelphia's offense, and I think it's going to be one of these games where it's a 2-touchdown performance for Matt Stafford, 10-point victory for the Lions at the end of the day.
Interesting, and you know me, I hate Philadelphia, so I'm going to agree with you here. When I look at Philadelphia, they still seem like they've got offensive line issues. Again, you mentioned it, the quarterback, Mark Sanchez, doesn't really inspire me with a lot of confidence. Last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whose defense has improved, and I think we can all agree, it just didn't look like any sort of competent football out there. Chip Kelly as a coach, I like him. I think Chip Kelly, the GM, has kind of killed this team. A lot of people said that going into 2015. Whenever you give up your leading passer, receiver, and runner, you're obviously going to have some issues. Not to mention, Chip Kelly decided, and I think we talked about this preseason, he just decided he didn't need Evan Mathis for some reason, and that honestly just instantly threw up red flags. The one problem I have with this Lions team is, can they get the run game going? But because Philadelphia's secondary is so putrid, I think Calvin's going to show up big on Thanksgiving. Which, let me ask you, what's your expectation of Calvin Johnson for tomorrow?
I think 100 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. The fact is, Philadelphia can't stop number one receivers. You look at two big prototypical guys who can beat you with speed and separation, specifically Mike Evans, not as much Vincent Jackson anymore, but he's still a sizable guy who can get it done. Both those guys had no problems against the Eagles last week. I don't see Calvin Johnson having any problems. The key for the Lions is, are you actually going to use Calvin Johnson? But I think that's what's going to happen in this game. I look at it right now. The interesting thing for me is really, again, can the Eagles offense get going against this Lions defense and keep those points coming? And you look at last week, what the Lions defense did to Amari Cooper. And Cooper didn't help himself with a couple of drops.
Yeah.
But besides that, he really didn't have too many opportunities. Philadelphia does not have a Michael Crabtree on that team, other guys who could step up and be those kind of playmakers.
Right.
So
yeah, you got Nelson Aguilar still developing. Jordan Matthews obviously is definitely missing the presence of a guy like Macklin who can stretch the field and open a lot of space up underneath. It's hard running your offense through a slot receiver. We've seen that same issue in Green Bay. Absolutely.
And then you got in-house problems with a guy like DeMarco Murray sliding instead of running over a potential defensive player, and an anonymous source from the Eagles talking about how they're questioning Murray's effort throughout the team. It just seems to be too much turmoil there in Philadelphia. They seem to be a team that's trending down, where the Lions seem to be trending up right now.
Absolutely. And I think the key matchup in this game, can Philadelphia establish the run game? And I know it's such a common saying, but this offense relies on rhythm. If they can't establish a rhythm on their second series, they give the ball right back to the Lions. The Lions might put up a couple field goals. Maybe they get into the end zone. And then this offense is playing from behind. You got to start throwing early. And who's taking snaps for the Eagles?
Exactly.
You don't exactly.
We don't know at this point. It's either going to be the Buffalo or Bradford. As we'll see when it comes up when the game starts off. If Bradford's in and he stays healthy, if Mark Sanchez is in, does he stay in the entire game? I believe the last Mark Sanchez was playing on Thanksgiving. It turned out quite disastrous.
Right. Right. Well, I think actually last Thanksgiving they beat the Cowboys, but that was with a better line and a better team and just a whole lot of things that were different. So.
Oh, my apologies. With the Jets.
With the Jets, right. Butt fumble. So we both got the Detroit Lions winning this matchup. Let's move on here to the second game, which I think we might go different ways here. You've got the Carolina Panthers at 10-0 going into Jerry World to play the Dallas Cowboys. I'll kick this one off. I've got the Panthers winning this game. When I look at the matchup, yes, Dallas has a great offensive line, but I really like the Panthers' pass rush. Coney Ealy's played big. We've seen that Greg Hardy off this team, that they can still get pressure. I think the Dallas run game, while albeit their offensive line is great at creating holes, I think Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, and those boys are going to force Tony Romo to throw the ball, and we'll see if Josh Norman can make a big play. The big thing for me is Cam going to be last week's Cam, or is Cam going to look like Colin Kaepernick? Because, I mean, when we talk offset, Nick, that's the thing that we both agree on, is that Cam is good, but Cam is inconsistent. So if Cam can show up tomorrow and be super Cam, put some points on the board, and let this defense do their thing, I like the Carolina Panthers to get one on the road here.
You know, Tony Romo may be the most valuable player to his team in the league when you look at it. That team just could not win any games without him. And then when he's in the lineup, it's like magic. It's like It's just somehow they just seem to always win. And I'm going to chalk it up to another win on Thanksgiving for the Cowboys here. I'm looking at it right now. I think this is going to be one of the best defenses Cam Newton has faced all year. And I think the Panthers are going to really try to establish. Now, here's the difference here. This is going to be a very close game, and it's not going to be a game the Cowboys are going to win in a blowout because the Cowboys' weaknesses is really run defense. They haven't been tremendous at stopping the run, although they did a better job against Miami last week, and that's something to take note of. If that is consistently being improved, and from what we've seen the past couple of weeks comparative to earlier in the year,
it was improved,
And then the Panthers are going to be in a lot of trouble because the Panthers really rely on the run game to help open up.
And they are number one in the league right now in rushing.
And that really, really helps. Right. The way I look at it right now is that when you have Devin Funchess and Ted Ginn are the guys that are your guys, and you look at what Dallas has done to players like Odell Beckham this year twice, and some of those number one receivers in these games, Cam's really going to have to do this a lot by himself. But one thing, if you go back to that Packer game, where you're talking about Cam had a chance to close out the game, close the door, and what do? He just on a simple out route threw a ball terrible. Way behind, interception. I think this is going to be a close game. I think this is going to be a game where Darren McFadden is going to have a 100-yard game rushing.
Wow, you think so?
And I think that's going to be all because Tony Romo's back, and that's going to help open up those running lanes just like it was for Murray last year. I think the Cowboys win this one against the Panthers. They get their first loss of the year and somehow get their name back in the division race.
Yeah, interesting. And that obviously depends on the Giants' loss, but Cowboy fans are hoping for that. How do you think Josh Norman's going to fare against Dez Bryant? Because, I mean, this guy's been playing like one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and if you're relying on Tony Romo to step back there and chuck it 35-plus times, I like the secondary of the Panthers.
I agree with you there. I think he is the number one pro-rated Football Focus cornerback. He's been an absolute monster. However, I think Dez gets one play, and I think that's all Dez is going to need. He's going to need one big play because this isn't going to be a game where it should be like 31-34. This is going to be one of those, like 20-16 games, 16-13, something along those lines. Maybe some big plays happen here or there, a big run from Cam, but it's a bend don't break kind of scenario for both of these defenses, and that's what we've seen from a couple of games here with the Panthers, and I think that's what we're going to see here on Thanksgiving with the Cowboys. I have faith in what Tony Romo brings to the team coming back, even shaking off the rust.
Right.
Still was able to make some great passes last week. I think he will this week.
Interesting. So I got the Panthers going 11-0. You've got them taking their first loss. Should be a great midday matchup, 4:30 p.m. Thanksgiving game. And to finish out the Thanksgiving slate, we've got the Packers hosting the Bears in a game where it looks like Alshon Jeffrey could be the deciding factor whether he plays or not, and slash Forte, because apparently Forte's coming back, although Jeremy Langford has just been killing it. The kid's disgusting. Nick, Packers, Bears, baby. Who do you got?
I got the Packers.
Me too. I think that's easy.
It's so hard to pick against them. It seems like you look at what Rodgers did last week against the tremendous Minnesota defense. That Minnesota defense, you can make an argument right now, is top 5 with Mike Zimmer.
Oh, definitely.
And you look at what Rodgers has done. It looks like Lacey's getting back on track. I'm not going to say he's back on track. You got to put together consistency. That's really will get your tracks going. But if Lacey can run like he did last week, and Rodgers can continue to show accuracy, because he had a little bit of inaccuracy beforehand the past couple of weeks prior to last week.
Right.
Bears are going to be in a lot of trouble. Devontae Adams should be playing. The big question is, if the Bears are going to have any shot at this, because their defense has improved over the course of the year, if they're going to have any shot at this, Alshon Jeffrey's got to be healthy, because you can't be counting on Marquise Wilson to get things done, or Zach Miller to get things done against Green Bay. It could get ugly really quick at Lambeau if the Bears don't have their playmakers operating.
Right. And which Jay Cutler is going to show up? Jay Cutler with this Adam Gase system has played well relatively all year, surprisingly, because you don't really generally see 32-year-old quarterbacks have these Renaissance-type years, but Cutler's been having them. Unfortunately, the team around him hasn't been there all season, but he threw 2 picks in Denver against Denver last week, albeit obviously we all know that Denver's pretty solid defensively. But which Jay Cutler is going to show up is going to be huge. You said it. Jeffrey needs to be in the game. A lot of people talk about his statistics being a product of volume. I would disagree with that. I think Alshon Jeffrey is a top 10 wide receiver in this league right now. He's solid. His health is the only problem that keeps him from being truly elite. And the other thing I have to question for the Bears is, can you get to Aaron Rodgers? We saw last week, you talk about that Minnesota defense. They weren't able to get pressure on Rodgers, and that's kind of been the Achilles heel through this 3-game loss, is that they were getting to Rodgers, the Broncos, the Panthers. But this offensive line looks like they've bolstered up a little bit here. And I know the entire world will disagree with me, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Aaron Rodgers is still my 2015 MVP, because this team is not in a position to go and win their division right now without Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
Yeah, and I can't argue that, because Aaron Rodgers does things that other people just don't, and the majority of people at his position throughout the entire longevity of the NFL have ever done.
Right.
Which is insane amount of accuracy, mobility, combination of what he's doing pre-snap and everything else, what he brings to the field.
Total package.
We're talking about Tom Brady without Julian Edelman right now, and it's like, oh, how's Brady? How are the numbers going to be affected? And it's like, Rodgers haven't had Nelson all year. Cobb's had a shoulder injury. Adams has been injured all year.
Yeah.
He's down to
Jeff
Ty
Janis.
Jeff Janis, because Ty Montgomery's been injured. And he's making Richard Rodgers look like a top 16 TE, a top half of the league tight end, and things like that. It's Aaron Rodgers is very good. And I think that's really what it comes down to for this Bears game. You could have all these factors in for the Packers, but if Aaron Rodgers gets any kind of time, any kind of help from the running game, it's just the Bears could have Alshon Jeffrey. It's still not going to matter. And if they don't have Alshon Jeffrey, oh, man.
And Cutler's going to turn it over at least once. I mean, that's money, right?
And there's a couple of playmakers on the Packers defense. You got Morgan Burnett back as well. Clinton Dix, Randall. They have some playmakers that are in the secondary.
And they're at home, and we know what Green Bay does at home. So
yes.
Well, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Debategate. And again, happy Thanksgiving to all you guys that have shown support to the show. Thank you so much. We strive so hard to get you guys daily content throughout the week here at High Stakes Sports Debates, and I just want to thank you guys for the love. If you haven't shown Nick Lippa some love by following him on Twitter, go ahead and do so. I'm watching you, so you better go do it. Also, check out WBNY on Facebook. They've got a lot of great stuff. Also, the podcast, Fantasy First, will be back next week. All those links will be in the description below. And people, voice your opinion. That's why we do this. I want to hear what you guys think. So, for Nick Lippa, I'm Tom Jude. Don't forget to show some love to those thumbs. Happy Thanksgiving. And this was High Stakes, baby. We'll see you here next time.
High Stakes Sports Debates.